Welcome to Vegan Finds, where we're going to turn this into this vegan Scottish cottage pie. Hey, welcome back, and or for those of you who are new, welcome to our show. And today we are going to be leaving Oktoberfest week and moving on to Rue Britannia. The first dish that we're going to make is Scottish cottage pie. Obviously, it's going to be vegan, so there's not going to be meat. We're going to be using the Trader Joe's beefless ground to go in there. We got some carrots, we got some onions, we got some mushrooms, and we got some potatoes. Rather than doing a mashed potato topping, which is traditional, we are going to be boiling, slicing, and baking these potatoes up. I'll show you how to do that. Super simple, super easy. Stick around and we'll show you how to cook this up momentarily. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a little oil to our pan here, and on medium to medium high heat, that's about a tablespoon, I'm going to be adding our onions into our pan to saute. This is one very large onion. I like onions, so the more the merrier. If you want less onion, feel free to use less onion. So while I'm doing that, I set a pot of cold water that's heavily salted on the stove and put our potatoes in. I always start my potatoes in cold water. That way they cook through. And once it comes to a boil, we're going to let them cook for 10 minutes. So not more than 10 minutes once the water comes to a boil with the potatoes. So we're going to let this cook, and while that's cooking, I'm going to get out 2 garlic cloves, smash those up, and I'm going to add those to the pan next. So the onions have been sauteing a little bit. I'm going to add our garlic to this. I got 2 cloves. We're going to let that just cook, get some of that strong garlic flavor cooked out just a bit. Now, if you have like a vegan beef bouillon stock, that would be great to have on hand. Also, it's good to turn on your oven because this is going to have to bake at 400 degrees. So if your oven is like mine, it takes a little bit of time to heat up there. So I always start my oven a little bit earlier than normal. So now I'm going to add the carrots to our dish here. The other thing to note is that normally this dish has wine. I'm not adding any wine to that. If you want, you could take some of the water or broth that you'd be using, the veggie stock, and use wine instead. I would probably limit it to a cup, half a cup of red wine. It'll be a little bit more authentic, as it were. And we're going to, now that I've added these carrots, we are going to let them cook a little bit before I add our mushrooms. Now I'm using the cremini mushrooms. A lot of times if you're looking at UK recipes and you'll see something called chestnut mushrooms, that's what they mean. Here they're called cremini, there they're called chestnut. I think it has a reference to the color more than anything else. So I'm going to let this cook for probably about 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to check on the potatoes, see if they've come to a boil yet. And I'll be right back in a flash. Okay, so I'm now going to start to add our mushrooms to our pan here. Now you could cut these up into, dice them up, but I like mushrooms. I like them a lot. You can tell because we have a lot of recipes that have mushrooms. Not only that, but I was driving around today and I saw 6 giant puffball mushrooms. And quite honestly, can't say I've ever seen a puffball mushroom until this year, at least not in the wild. I've seen pictures of them and I've seen them in restaurants. I've never actually seen one in the wild until the one that I snagged a couple weeks ago. But now, for whatever reason, this is the year of the puffball. We're going to let that cook for a few minutes. Then I'm going to add the Trader Joe's chopped meat. It's beefless ground, and I'll be back. Okay, so I'm adding our 1 package of the beefless ground to our pan here, and I will break that up in a moment. Still just a touch frozen, that's alright. It'll cook through. Just gonna get this mixed in. Then I'm gonna gather the final ingredients for this. Our water's boiling, so I got the timer set on the potatoes. So everything should be timed out just right. Fingers crossed. I'm going to add about 3 cups of vegan beef bouillon that I created. We're just going to let that cook and simmer. Actually may add just a bit more. Just a tiny bit more. And while that's simmering, I'm going to get out the last of our flavoring ingredients. I'm not adding any additional salt because I actually used a bouillon cube, a vegan bouillon cube, to make the vegan bouillon broth, and that is super salty stuff. That much I can tell you. You're not going to need to add any additional salt. Okay, so to my pan now, I'm going to be adding 3 tablespoons of vegan Worcestershire. We're using a homemade Worcestershire here. You know what? I'm going to go an extra one. So I'm going to add 4. I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. Of course, I have to get one that has a jar that doesn't quite, the spoon doesn't quite fit. So there's 1. 2. But I do like the jarred ones better than the can, because the can always ends up getting wasted because the tomato goes bad before you ever get to use whatever's left, and you only ever need 2 or 3, right? Give that a little extra for good measure. Now we're going to stir this up. Let's get everything cooking just nice and yummy. Oh, it smells great. That much I can tell you. It smells fantastic. Now I'm going to add 3 teaspoons of thyme. I'm using a ½ teaspoon measure, so when I count it, it's going to be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I got my thyme in there. Going to give that another little stir. We're going to let this simmer for 10 minutes. I've got one more ingredient to put in. Okay, so I'm going to add a little bit of black pepper. I got to get a new pepper grinder because ours broke. Going to give that a stir. I just took the potatoes off the heat. I'm going to let them cool down just a bit before I slice them and get them ready to go on top of our dish here. I'm going to lower the heat and I'm going to let this simmer for 15-20 minutes. Okay, so our stuff has been cooking for 20 minutes. Now we're just going to start laying our potatoes on here, like so. What we're going to do is I'm going to melt some vegan butter and I'm going to just lightly top our potatoes with some vegan butter. Hopefully I got enough potatoes. Still a little bit hot and slippery. Oh, thank God the fan is off. Thing gives you a headache after a while. Okay. Beautiful. Stick that right there. You want to get these somewhat thin, but this is going to bake for 20 to 25 minutes till these are golden brown and bubbly, so we should be okay with that. I'm going to throw this one right there. Yep, we definitely have enough potatoes. All right. Whoa. Be careful of the side of the pan. Still hot? All right. All right. Just gonna cover up some of the gaps here. All right. Beautiful. All right, so our cottage pie just needs a little bit coating of some vegan butter. I'm going to do that right now. Okay, so we're just going to spread some of this vegan butter on top. The oven is ready to go. One thing I love about this is that I don't need to put this in another dish. If you got a pan that'll fit in your oven, just do it in one pan. No need to put this in another baking dish. It's just a waste of, time and water and detergent and everything else that goes along with it. I'm just gonna give that a little, and it's ready to go in the oven. I'll be back in 25 minutes to show you how it looks. Okay, so there you have it, our cottage pie. I'm going to cut a piece for my wife because she's hungry.
Did you tell them what week it is?
I said it's Rule Britannia week. I actually said Rue.
Rule Britannia week.
All right, look at that.
Ooh, it looks good.
It does look good. It's steaming hot. That much I can tell you.
Did you tell them why we're doing Britannia week?
No, why are we doing Britannia week?
Because your wife watches the Great British Baking Show and it's back.
Oh, is that why? Not a big fan of Paul Hollywood.
I know you're not a fan of Paul Hollywood. I happen to like Paul Hollywood. Hit me up, Paul.
Please. Take my wife. Please. Anyway, this is the finished product. So, if you like these recipes, please click subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, share with your friends. Also, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram. And the nice thing about this, one pot, one pot, one measuring cup, one measuring spoon. That's all you need. So, we'll see you the next time. Be safe, enjoy, and be happy.